This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Yes. Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet World, West Alabama. How we doing today on this Tuesday, December the 3rd? This is the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com. Hanging out with us in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios, right off McFarland Boulevard, right here in Tuscaloosa. Big thanks to everybody who's watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, at Joe Gaither6, or on the Bama Central YouTube channel, or you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platforms. Our podcast numbers, Mason Woods, are starting to go up, and I am attributing that right to you, Mason Woods. Mason Woods has joined us for about 2 months now, and last month better, the month before, your first month better, last month even better than that.
Sweet.
So we're going to make December even better than that. Follow Mason Woods at MAWoods_ as he makes our show better. Mason, how we doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. I was just talking to you right before the show there. Really has nothing to do with what we're going to get into today, but I do just want to mention it for anyone who is not aware. I was driving around with my wife last night and stumbled across the Alabama golf facility that I have not been privy to seeing yet in person. And good God, that thing is beautiful. So anybody get out there and see it. Shout out to the Alabama golf facility for that. I will accept an invite kindly if you let me come, please. It was amazing. That was that just took over my whole afternoon yesterday of how incredible it was.
If you want to see the Alabama golf facility and you can't be in Tuscaloosa or you don't have a special invitation, just scroll through the Bama Central YouTube channel. We got ourselves a little tour maybe 3 weeks ago, and there's probably about 30-40 minutes of footage inside the facility, around the grounds. God, it is. I played golf with my dad this past weekend, Mason. Poorly, but yeah, that facility.
Hey, it blew my mind. I didn't think I knew the mock-ups and everything looked cool, but I just thought all right, whatever. No, it's really, really incredible what they've done out there. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Any facility that you can go into a big room and basically create a putt. They have a mat. They had a mat on the women's wing and on the men's wing. So both programs have a big old mat. And when I say mat, I don't mean mat outside of your door. I mean 10 by 10. It was huge. It was huge, and it was raised on a platform. And essentially, the coaches could dial up a little program, and the mat contour changed, and so they could putt. They'd practice, breaking left to right, breaking right to left, uphill putt, downhill putt. It was insane.
How much do you think we could install one of those in the Derek Daniel studio for?
Honestly, if we sweet talk Derek, he might do it.
I think
because
he can use it too.
Derek loves the golf now. Derek loves the golf out here.
Right over here in the corner. That'd be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So we're looking forward to covering Alabama's golf program next in the spring. The men will get going. But we're here. Look, I don't want to do this show today. Not that I don't want to be on with you. I do want to be on with you. I want to talk with you. I want to converse with you, and you can always jump in the comment section at Joe Gaither6. I don't want to do this show today, probably because my emotions are still in Norman, Oklahoma.
A piece of me died there.
I'm still offended. And I cannot, you got to settle your emotions in your heart. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. I cannot settle what I saw in my brain and in my heart that day. And so what we're going to do with the program today is basically argue Alabama's position. We didn't do it yesterday because we wanted to really focus on the Iron Bowl and the victory. And I didn't even think it was that impressive of a win, really, to be honest. But you won the game. The season's over. You're 9-3, and now all the politicking starts. You see Lane Kiffin going out there on his Twitter, and he's got the Twitter notes. You see Kalen DeBoer right after the game. Now, Kalen was directly asked about it from our friend Nick Kelly, and Nick did a good. I mean, look, you have to ask the question. Yeah. Good job, Nick. And Coach DeBoer gave a nice little, a measured response about the schedule and about what Alabama has done, this, that, and the other. You have seen your check from Miami. Let me see. I know that Ross Dellinger tweeted all of them. Ross Dellinger tweeted every single one of the of the pleas. Ross
even
Dellinger.
ESPN is getting in on it. I saw yesterday ESPN is pushing the graphic of teams. What was it? It was a record against teams
bowl
above
teams on the
500.
road.
That's what it was. Let's forget top 25 wins. Let's take away top 25 even games that you played. Let's just look at games you played against teams with 6 wins. Just cherry picking stats, really, really bad right there. It was very, very blatant with that post from ESPN.
Dan Radakovich from Miami was tweeting. Greg Byrne. You got Shane Beamer. You got Lane Kiffin. Literally everybody is politicking right now. So let's start the show and start the conversation with Greg Byrne and his tweet. We will hear a Kalen DeBoer, argument. Kalen DeBoer was on with Peter Burns earlier today. So we'll hear an argument from Kalen DeBoer. And then we'll discuss this because I think this 11th, 12th spot is down to really 6 teams. I think 6 teams have an argument. And when you purse through the arguments and get rid of all the emotions, I think the decision is pretty clear. So before we before we look at Greg Byrne, and before we kind of dive into the discussion today, oh yes, CJ Watson, long time no talk, Joe. Hope all is well. Roll Tide to you, CJ Watson. Does Alabama deserve a spot in the college football playoff? That's what our conversation will be today. Before we get into it, though, let's tell you about our friend Derek Daniel. We are live in the Derek Daniel State Farm studio. You can call Derek and his team today, Red, Reese, and Victoria, at 205-758-3391. They can take care of all your home, life, and auto insurance needs. Go ahead and give them a call today. Again, 205-758-3391. They can get you an auto insurance quote really, really quickly, let you know the information that you need to make your decisions. Very fast, efficient, nice people. Red, Reese, and Victoria are upstairs. And look, you can come visit us if you want to, right off of McFarland Boulevard, past the Tiger Rock on the left, just up Highway 69 North as you get into Northport. So we're here in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios, and we love Derek. We appreciate him having us. Call Derek and see how much he can save you today. 205-758-3391. Mason Woods, I'm driving to see a friend yesterday, mid-evening, and Alabama's athletic director, Greg Byrne, let's see what this is at 6:21 last night, goes out onto the Twitter machine and makes his case.
Yes.
I tweeted it to you, and your first response was, boo.
Boo. And, I will say, after the tirade I went on yesterday against Lane Kiffin, which I still hold firm in my opinion there, I did think about it a little bit, and I think I've kind of come to the conclusion. I think my biggest issue is when a coach, an athletic director, whatever, someone involved with the program in any way like that that is a representative for the program, when someone goes out of their way to not only build their team up, but try to directly name another team and be like, this is why we're better than that team. I think that's what I have the issue with. And that's what Lane Kiffin did. He directly mentioned Miami on his radio show. He directly mentioned South Carolina on Twitter. Greg Byrne, while I still don't love doing this, I think you just kind of let the chips fall where they're going to. He doesn't use this post to directly try to crap on other teams and be like, this is why we're so much better than them. He only provides facts about Alabama, which I can appreciate. And I think Kalen DeBoer kind of did the same thing when he was asked about it too.
All right, so Greg Byrne, if you didn't see it, if you're not on Twitter, that's A-OK. He says, here's a good look at the numbers and rankings for Alabama football. Recognize that there's a lot of chatter about 2 and 3 loss teams. However, that's just one factor. When you look at the college football playoff principles for its selection committee, the first bullet point on the list of consideration is strength of schedule. Not all schedules and all conferences are created equal. We've worked diligently, to add more challenging non-conference home and homes, which is good for college football, not to mention the week in and week out of the SEC and it being the toughest in the country. All right, where's my next tab that I want to head to? I want to pull up some of these schedules as we start talking about this Miami discussion, Clemson discussion, SMU discussion. You've got Alabama, South Carolina, Ole Miss as well. Look, let's start with South Carolina and Ole Miss because probably if you're the college football selection committee, you're basically saying, okay, you're probably picking out of the conference. Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin going out there, basically taking a big old doo-doo on South Carolina. A humongous.
I'm not sure Lane Kiffin want to see Shane Beamer face to face.
No, look, lock them in a cage. This is a great note. He says all three, South Carolina, Ole Miss, and Alabama, are 9-3 and represent the SEC. South Carolina lost to both Alabama and Ole Miss.
Mm-hmm.
Their best win is against Clemson. Ole Miss and Alabama both beat Georgia. Georgia beat Clemson 34-3. Safe to say South Carolina is out, and it's between Ole Miss and Alabama. And then he goes on this big tirade about why Ole Miss should be in over Alabama. Ole Miss has 9 wins, outscoring their opponent 390-94. Okay, Lane, do not start right there. Don't start right there, because do you want to do this?
Is this the bed you want to make for yourself, Lane?
9. We have the however many wins by. Here's our margin of victory. Okay, we can play this game, Lane. Who did you play?
Mm-hmm.
Who did you play out of conference? Let me scroll to my right. There's my Ole Miss right there. Who'd you play? Was it Wofford? No, they didn't get Wofford, but they got Furman. Furman on their schedule.
Paladins.
Purple Paladins. Furman University Christian Knights. 76. 76-0, and then you beat MTSU. Great job, Blue Raiders, 52-3
out of Tennessee.
Oh, here we go. Here's a Power 4 conference game on your schedule at Wake Forest versus Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern has been in FBS for 5 years now, 4 years now. They were FCS Power. You smacked Georgia Southern 52-13. So that's your non-conference game. Okay, your margin of victory. Oh, we won. What do you say? 390-94. All right, let's play a little quick math here. 390-94. How much of those 390 were scored in these first 4 games? 76 and 52 and 40 and 52 is 220. 220 out of 390 is 56% of your bleeping points were scored against these 4 little sisters of the poor.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, Georgia Southern.
Alabama
I know my mother
School
graduated from, big time master's degree from Georgia Southern. Go Eagles. Don't want to disrespect you guys. But, let's be honest here. If we're going to play the numbers game, that's cool. But let's be honest. You scored over half of your season points in your 4 non-conference games. All right, you lost to Kentucky. You only scored 17. You beat South Carolina, scoring 23. You lost to LSU, scoring 26. Okay, these scores are much more realistic here.
Mm-hmm.
You beat Oklahoma, scoring 26. Now, you did put up a big old fat 63 spot on Arkansas. You beat Georgia, scoring 28. You lost to Florida, scoring only 17. And you won the Egg Bowl, scoring 26. You do have a good offense, Lane.
Mm-hmm.
I do think you have a good offense. But to start your conversation here is weird, is icky.
Makes me think Joey Freshwater maybe spent a little too much time downtown before he sent this tweet out.
Maybe so. Because, look, you're not comparing – I know Western Kentucky and I know Mercer are on Alabama's schedule, and those are not good games.
Mm-hmm.
But you're basically comparing at Wake Forest to at Wisconsin here. And I know Wisconsin didn't make a bowl game, partly because Alabama had tore the quarterback's ACL on the first series of the game, and their season basically went to all hell. Okay, so I like at Wisconsin much more than at Wake Forest.
I mean, just based off of purely the atmosphere, Wisconsin is objectively a much harder place to play.
Sure. I like South Florida at home over MTSU at home.
Agreed.
Basically saying Furman and Georgia Southern are pretty much equal to Western Kentucky and Mercer. I mean, they are. So you first go to point differential. I'm sorry. I think point differential is a terrible metric,
especially in college football.
What happens? How many? If point differential were the thing, how many points do you think Alabama would have put up on Mercer?
Exactly.
You put up 63 in the first week against Western Kentucky. Who cares about point differential? In the 3 losses, Ole Miss was outscored 73-60, minus 13. In the 3 losses, Alabama was outscored 88-55. minus 33. All right. fair. Alabama's 3 losses. They weren't really in those 3 games as much. You're definitely in the Vanderbilt game, but that bad boy is just you're chasing the game. You never really were in the Oklahoma game. I guess you could argue that first half you were in the game, but no, weren't doing anything to stay competitive. At Tennessee, you squandered all kinds of opportunities. But again,
you had a chance.
You're trying to compare your loss at LSU with at Tennessee. I'm sorry. We all love LSU, big time program, nice little brand, is a top 5, top 6 team in the SEC year in and year out, but they're having a really bad year. They're unranked. They're 8-4 on the season. That's your big loss on the road, right? Alabama's big loss on the road is to a playoff team. Tennessee is not having this debate. Tennessee is in. Tennessee is preparing for December 20th. They're in. I'm not real sure that losing at Tennessee is as shameful as losing at LSU. We have seen LSU is booty cheeks, bad on defense, not good.
Yeah,
paper tiger on the offensive line.
This high-flying, fancy offense you got, Lane. Why didn't you put up more points against LSU, one of the worst defenses in the SEC?
Ridiculous. And you're going to say, okay, you got a 7-point loss at Florida. Oh, our close loss at Florida. Wasn't the Alabama loss like 5 points at Vanderbilt? Wasn't it 40-35? I think it was what it was. And then, okay, you lost at home.
This is the black mark.
Right. You lost at home to Kentucky.
God.
I'm sorry.
I know red X.
Alabama lost on the road to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma only had the one conference win going into it, and they really weren't having a good season. And I know that, look, we started the show. I'm still offended by that performance. But Alabama did not lose at home. We've been doing power rankings all year long on Bama Central, BamaCentral.com, and I have been doing it pretty routinely. And about a week after basically the Kentucky win at Ole Miss, Kentucky just started to slide down the rankings. They have been living at 15 out of 16 for the last 5 or 6 weeks. They're awful.
They are terrible.
They are the bottom of your trash can, the nastiness at the bottom of your trash. That's how bad they are. They're not good. And you lost to them at home, only putting up 17 points. And I know it's September, early in the year. Anything can happen. Any given Saturday, sure. But you have to protect home field. You have to. I think when you look at some of these resumes, and maybe I'm just biased because of the time that I've been playing college football 25, and playing on the road is really not really for the weak in that game. I think it's the same thing here in the SEC. You play on the road, I think it's going to be a real challenge. You look at Alabama's schedule, 1-3 on the road in the SEC. I mean, not good. Ole Miss, you lost at home to Kentucky. I'm sorry. I think, Lane Kiffin, you're out of this discussion.
I agree. I cannot look past that loss. It is such a just disqualifying mark for me for being even remotely on the same level as any of these other teams in consideration. You lost at home to the worst team in the SEC. Like, I know Mississippi State's still down there, but I like Mississippi State. They at least are a little feisty. Like, they at least have something. Kentucky doesn't have anything. They have no hope. There's no we'll be okay next year. No, Kentucky is terrible. They are scraping the bottom of the barrel. Take them out of the SEC and drop them in the American, and I still think they'd probably be middle of the pack. Kentucky's really bad. I can't get over that loss. Can't look past it. And Lane, you know that. I think Lane knows that deep down. That's why he's doing all this politicking. That's why he's all over Twitter talking about, win different or point differential. Oh, our offense averages this many yards a game. Lane knows. He knows he shouldn't have lost to Kentucky at home, and he knows that that's what's going to keep him out of this playoff.
Well, he conveniently knows that because the loss to Kentucky is never really referenced in here. Obviously, he does acknowledge 3 losses. We had 3 losses, but he acknowledges the loss to Ole Miss. To LSU. He acknowledges Alabama's loss to Oklahoma, their win over Oklahoma. But there's no mention. There's no mention of losing to Florida. There's no mention of losing to Kentucky, not specifically, only in point differential. Oh, we barely lost to the second worst team in the conference. People have been all year long giving me Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt, Vanderbilt. And it's like, okay, they are now at the year is over 6-6. But let's remember that their win total was 2.5 going into the season. They're having a better year. They're not the worst team in the conference. Are they the best team? No. They're in the
right in the middle of the pack,
10, 11, 12. Yeah, they're in that 10, 11, 12. It's not a good look to lose to Vanderbilt anytime, but you didn't lose at home to Kentucky. If Vanderbilt had come into Bryant-Denny Stadium and beaten Alabama, that'd be a humongously bad loss. I don't think losing. I'm sorry, I still just don't think losing in Nashville is that bad of a loss. I mean, they played Texas to a 3-point game there.
Yeah. You're preaching to the choir here. Look, I fully agree with you. I don't think that those two games are even remotely comparable. A home loss versus Kentucky or a road loss versus Vanderbilt as apples and oranges to me.
All right, so we go to the other SEC team because we're sitting here in this group of three: Ole Miss, Alabama, and South Carolina. Everybody angling for one another. And I'm going to go back to the Greg Burns discussion. Number 2 against winning percentage. Number 2 in opponent winning percentage at 674. Alabama is number 4 in the ESPN Football Power Index. I'm sorry, Greg, that's not a real stat. Number 4 in ESPN's efficiency rating, offense, defense, and special teams. That is a real stat. I'll take that every time. Number 10 in ESPN's strength of record. Number 17 in ESPN's strength of schedule. 3 wins against teams currently ranked in the college football top 25 poll. 4 wins against teams ranked or receiving votes in the AP Top 25 poll at the time of the game. 6 of the 8 FBS wins have come against bowl-eligible teams. 1-4 the last 5 games heading into the postseason. Okay. There's some good in this. There's some bad in this. I don't really care about winning 4 of the last 5 games. I have to say that as we get into South Carolina, because that is where South Carolina's argument begins. South Carolina's argument begins is, we've won 6 in a row. Great. You won 6 in a row. You've beaten 2 quality teams in these 6 games. And great. 6 in a row is hard to do.
Yeah.
But does that matter? Is that what we're going to talk about? Is that what really matters? I mean, we're playing you, South Carolina, against Ole Miss and against Alabama, and the first 2 things that I see here are a loss to Ole Miss and a loss to Alabama.
Yeah, that should disqualify you right there. I don't understand why we have begun this conversation of, but South Carolina's hot right now. They're playing the best football they've played all year. I don't care. They should have played this football all season. Why didn't they? Where was this level of football when they came to Bryant-Denny Stadium? Where was this level of football when they played Ole Miss? The games on the field have to matter, or else what are we doing? We're just going to go with Vegas odds and we'll throw 12 teams in there every year, depending on what the bettors say is going to be the best teams. The games have to matter. These teams played on the field, and we have results from those matchups. That has to mean something.
Well, I'm seeing, South Carolina kept it close in Tuscaloosa. It's only a 2-point loss. If that were a neutral field, if this were Vegas, neutral field, South Carolina might win.
Horseshoes and hand grenades, my friend. Close only count. Close means nothing to me. Almost gets you nowhere. No, you know what? In 5 years, when we're looking back at this, no one's going to remember that was a 2-point loss. They'll remember that you lost.
Well, you know what people don't remember right now? Right now. Well, I'm pulling up the date on this game. This game was, oh gosh, I just had it. I just lost it and I had it. This game was, how many games? This is the 6th game of the year, so it's middle of September. It's after the Tennessee loss. Yeah. So it's middle of October. No, right before, it's before the Tennessee loss. You're right sandwiched in between Vanderbilt and Tennessee. So that was what? First or second Saturday in October. So that means that's 8 weeks or so. Yeah, that's what I want to. I want to illustrate how short people's memories are. That was October the 5th or the 12th, right? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks ago. You see this box score and you see 27-25, and you see, oh my gosh, South Carolina almost beat Alabama. They're close. They almost beat Alabama. They challenged them. And okay, that's true. They did challenge, two-point win. They challenged us. But remember the game flow. Alabama was up 7-0. Alabama was up 14-0. South Carolina cuts at 14-7. South Carolina cuts at 11-14, 9-14. South Carolina cuts at 12-14. Oh gosh, halftime has changed. South Carolina takes a lead, 19-14. From here, 19-14 in the third quarter, Alabama goes touchdown, 2-point conversion failed, touchdown, extra point made. So boom, you've put up 13 points to start the third quarter, right? Well, actually, you put up a touchdown to retake the lead at 10:42 in the third quarter, 20-19. You went for 2 to make it a 3-point game. You didn't get it, so it's a 1-point game. All right, cool. It's still tight. The fourth quarter goes on. Alabama basically stretches the lead out with another touchdown. Jeremy Bernard, 34-yard touchdown pass. It's 27-19 with 154 left in the game. 2 minutes left in the game, and it is an 8-point game. Sure, that's still one possession. I get that. But I remember, I'm pretty sure I was on the gamer for this game, and I came down, the sidelines thinking, oh, Alabama's in control of this game.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama's in control. This is going to be fine. And sure, South Carolina made some plays at the end to kind of get into it, kind of make it interesting, make it spicy. I think they recovered an onside kick and they're throwing bombs down the field. I didn't feel like, now maybe this is my bias, but I didn't feel like that game was that close.
No, we talk about this a lot when we like predict games and things about, oh, it's gonna look a lot closer than it actually was. I think this is a pretty good example of that. And I'm, sure, maybe I am biased too, like you. Maybe I'm looking at this with crimson-colored glasses, but I really think I'm trying to be objective here about it. Like, you go back and watch that game, you go back and watch even just the highlights from that game. There was never a moment where it really felt like, oh, Alabama. Like maybe when South Carolina got the onside kicks, I think they did. That was the only moment of that game where it felt like, okay, something could happen here.
4 turnovers for South Carolina in that game. They lost 3 fumbles. They threw an interception. I mean, they outgained Alabama 374-313, but they just didn't take care of the football.
That game did not really feel like a 2-point game. That 27-25 looks a whole lot worse than what the actual film will tell you about the game.
Now I remember their defensive line went crazy. Kyle Kennard went crazy. They had themselves a really good day, kind of getting after Jalen Milroe. But just, I don't know. Okay, so all right, that game, Alabama wins.
I mean, at the end of the day, Alabama still won the game. So we have an on-field result where Alabama beats that team.
What I don't understand. You got people now. Well, South Carolina's a different team. South Carolina's a different team, and we've seen Alabama. They 2 weeks ago fall. Yes, they did. But you're looking at teams with the exact same record. We're not sitting here talking about a 9-2 South Carolina team that, oh, well, you lost to Alabama, you get them all again because your record's better. No, that's what I don't understand is we're in a little 3-team comparison, and one of these three teams lost to both of the other 2. South Carolina has no recourse and should not be even considered at this point.
I agree. Look, I have ridden the Shane Beamer train since the early part of the season. I do like South Carolina. I like what they're doing there. I like Lenore Sellers. I think they're a good team. I like Shane Beamer. But you're just going to miss it this year. I hate it. You just couldn't quite get there. You just couldn't get over the hump this year. You're right there. You're going to finish in that, 13-15 range, but you just didn't make it this year. You shouldn't have lost both of those games.
All right, let's listen to what Kalen DeBoer said today, a couple of hours ago on Sirius XM College Football Radio. This is Kalen DeBoer I think we have successfully, and you can disagree if you like, at Joe Gaither 6, successfully outlined why Ole Miss and why South Carolina are not really viable options here. Let's hear from Kalen DeBoer why Alabama is a viable option.
The wins we have and the week-to-week schedule that we play here in the SEC, I think it's undeniable of what that all is. It's not just the games that are against the top, 5 or 10. It's
I thought I had that sound pulled up, but maybe I did not.
Technology
That's
never
A-okay.
wants to cooperate with us.
Let's see if I can find a different way. Right there. Go ahead.
I mean, I was just gonna, in case we can't find it. I mean, he kind of did a very similar spiel to I think what he gave Nick Kelly the other night when he was asked about it, and kind of in the same vein as what Greg Byrne did on Twitter. At least from what I remember listening to it, he didn't directly mention anybody else. He just stuck with strictly what Alabama does, what Alabama has done this season, and I think that is while I still don't love coaches getting out and doing politics, I guess that's just the name of the game. You got to do it. I think this is the best way to do it. This is the way that I have the least problems with. If as long as you're just building up your own team, whatever. I just don't like when coaches go tearing other teams down, because it's like, we can tear you down too, buddy.
Oh yeah, how about this?
Schedule that we play here in the SEC.
Oh, that's why you couldn't hear it.
The wins we have and the week-to-week schedule that we play here in the SEC, I think it's undeniable of what that all is.
No,
it's not just.
Well, everything I've tried is not going to work. But okay, so Kalen DeBoer essentially says exactly what he said on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean,
ranked wins over three ranked wins. We played a tough schedule. We challenged ourselves, and he talks about the depth of the conference and this, that, and the other. People's biggest issue with Alabama is the losses to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. It's not the schedule. It's not, a lot of people recognize the wins, but they immediately go to, well, you lost to Oklahoma, you lost to Vanderbilt, you lost to 2 6-6 teams. So Mason, if you've lost to 2 6-6 teams, should you be out of the playoffs? Oh shoot! Actually, my man Wendell Harris says he did hear it, so maybe it's just on you, Mason. So how about this? We'll just let it play and let that go.
It's against the whole. It's the whole season long. It's each and every week, and so the strength of schedule for the wins we have and the week-to-week schedule that we play here in the SEC, I think it's undeniable of what that all is, it's not just the games that are against the top, 5 or 10. It's against the whole. It's the whole season long. It's each and every week, and so the strength of schedule for us, the SEC, and then some is just, I think very deserving that, with what we did, that we're one of those 12 teams. I've been a part of championship teams and know what that looks like, and the physicality that we have, the explosiveness we have. We have a defense that, creates a ton of turnovers. So, one of the best in the country. And, we're great in critical situations. So special teams, it's all across the board, offense, defense, special teams. We're a very balanced football team, but we have some very pronounced strengths. And, I know what that looks like in championship teams. And, we're very capable of that and have that. I also know what it feels like, from a resiliency standpoint and going through a season, especially these guys from, taking it back. And I know January, February through August doesn't matter to anyone else. But knowing what the courses that we've been on, and this is more of a prideful thing for me, that the resiliency we've had to come out and, back up who we are and what we stand for each and every week, when it's good, and even when we had the times at different points in the season where we struggled just a little bit. So I just feel like we have all that makeup of being not just a top 12 team, but a team that could win it all.
All right, so that was a little bit of a risk. I hope everybody did hear that. My man Wendell Harrell on the Facebook machine said that it was working, so we didn't hear it when it played back, but I did hear it earlier today. And I had one issue with Kalen DeBoer's comments. He said, we played well in high leverage situations this year. Now, look, you're down against Georgia and you get the touchdown. Yeah, you played well in some high leverage situations, but at Tennessee is a high leverage situation. At Oklahoma is a high leverage situation, particularly with everything that was on the line there. I don't think that you did play well at Tennessee and at Oklahoma, particularly. I mean, look, you get the mulligan in the first loss. Okay, you're learning the SEC a little bit. We got to figure out, Sometimes it's hard to play on the road, this, that, and the other. I just don't know about playing well. I mean, yes, the Georgia instance is obvious. The Georgia instance is very, very clear. Just don't know about how clutch or how much this team is playing well in high leverage situations.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the examples of bad play in crunch time greatly outweigh the examples of good play in crunch time for this team. You mentioned it. You look to that Georgia game, sure, that you're playing well on a big stage. You were at home, so take that with a grain of salt, I guess. But you go to the second half of that game, you almost let Georgia come back and win it. So I don't think that's certainly not something that I look at this Bama team and I think, oh yeah, they handle pressure well. That's not the immediate place where my head goes.
All right, so Wendell comments again, and you can join Wendell here on the comments section on Facebook at Joe Gaither 6, on Twitter as well, and YouTube as well. And I think this leads us right into the furtherance of our discussion. If losing to a 6-6 team matters, then Ohio State and Miami should be ranked lower. CJ Watson commented, I see a lot of people saying, mostly Bama fans unhappy with our record and play sometimes, that we don't deserve a spot. But there's 12 teams that get a spot. I don't see a better or more deserving resume than Alabama's to get that 11th or 12th seed. I wish we weren't in the are we in or are we out position. But strength of schedule, quality wins, losses being on the road, also good road wins, having more ranked wins at the top 5 than the top 5 teams combined. Name a team that should be in. Because CJ and Wendell are dancing right around this. You lost to Oklahoma, you lost to Vanderbilt, you got 3 losses. You shouldn't be in. But we just told you why 3 SEC teams shouldn't be in either. We'll flip to the ACC in here in just a moment. But somebody's going to get this spot.
Yeah. CJ makes a really good point there. Yes, sure, Bama is deserving of one of the 12 spots because there are 12 spots, and Bama is one of probably the 12 best teams in the country. I just think I don't like that we have 3 teams that can compete for a national title. I think that's my biggest issue. 12. I still am in the camp that 12 was too many. I think it should have never gone past 8. Because I don't think there's 12 teams on a given year that can win the national title. I don't think there's 12 teams that deserve to compete for a national title in a given year. This is one of those years. That's the way it's set up. So sure, yes, technically somebody has to get that spot. So I guess by that, Alabama deserves it. But just on principle alone, a 3-loss team, in my eyes, you've done just about all that you can to not deserve to play for a national championship.
So somebody's getting that spot. So let's look at these 3 ACC teams, because I think that really the conversation is not between Alabama, Ole Miss, and South Carolina, but really between Alabama, Miami, Clemson, and SMU. If you get an SMU victory on Saturday, then of course the Mustangs are going to the playoffs as the ACC champion. They'll be 12-1 at that point, and absolutely deserving. You'll have a 9-4 Clemson team and a 10-2 Miami team. And I think that really your resume or your discussion will be between Clemson and Miami. If Clemson wins, then I think you're going to have a hard time because Clemson's going to get the automatic bid. I think SMU gets an at-large, and you're really, really getting squeezed out of that last spot. But it's still really, I think, between Miami and Alabama. Miami beats Florida. Look, their schedule's dog water as well. Florida A&M, Ball State, South Florida, Virginia Tech, Cal, Louisville.
Not one top 25 game on that schedule.
Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. Now, Syracuse is in the top 25 this week.
Okay.
In the top 25 this week.
Was that after beating Miami, though?
Yes.
So yes, not a top 20. So, yeah, they only get the top 25 just because they got the upset. They'll be right back out of the rankings by the end of the season.
They showed us last year, Mason, what they think of the ACC. This Miami team didn't go undefeated in the ACC like Florida State last year. I'm sorry, I just no ranked wins, 1 ranked loss. Right? You lost to unranked Vanderbilt, unranked Oklahoma. Well, what about unranked Georgia Tech and what would have been unranked Syracuse had you beat them? No, Syracuse is in at 23, 24. Okay, great. You don't have any good losses. You don't have a loss at Tennessee that's like, oh, we really went and challenged ourselves. Now, obviously, it's not their fault that Clemson and SMU and I guess what's another good ACC team wasn't on their schedule. Pittsburgh wasn't on their schedule. I guess Pittsburgh fell way off. They're at 7-5. I'm seeing that. Their best team on their schedule is Syracuse.
Yeah,
and they lost.
This is they have no good wins. You have no good losses. The loss to Syracuse is not a good loss.
You beat 9-3 Duke. Great. You beat 8-4 Louisville.
Yeah.
Great. Now you did smoke South Florida 50-15, more than Alabama did. More than Alabama beat them by more than that. But am I just a fool that I have no respect for the schedule?
I don't think so. I personally also, I look at this schedule and I don't think I can. I cannot hitch my wagon to a team that I've not seen be challenged yet this season.
They were challenged. Cal challenged them. They beat Cal by 1 point.
Challenged from a standpoint of actually playing teams that are ranked alongside them. They've been challenged by these teams who they shouldn't have been challenged by, which is just more reason they don't deserve to be in the playoff. No, I think Miami, you were in a situation where you had, of all of these teams competing for playoff spots this year, you probably had the easiest schedule of all of them in front of you, and you blew it. This is the same issue I have with Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss. You had the easiest schedule in the SEC, and you blew it. Miami, you had it laid out right in front of you. All you had to do was win the games in front of you, and you couldn't do it. You lose to Georgia Tech and Syracuse. No. And then you don't have any good wins to make up for those losses. Alabama, you have the win over Georgia. You have the now what looks like a great win over South Carolina to make up for maybe some of those bad losses a little bit. Miami does not have that luxury here.
Miami should have put out this the score differential graphic with their non-conference, just like Ole Miss, beating Florida 41-17. Good looks. Smacking Florida A&M 56-9, smacking Ball State 62-0, and smacking South Florida 50-15. That's pretty good. That's a 32-9 is 41. So you gave up 41 points and you scored 106. What's that? 208 or so, 208 and 249 in those non-conference. So look, you got a great offense. I just don't know that the resume is good enough. Now, obviously, not 10-2, one fewer loss. Oh wow, they played 12 games and they didn't lose as many as you guys did. So
sure.
I
can't argue with that.
You got to conclude the program at some point. And look, tonight's going to be very, very interesting. Tonight on BamaCentral.com, I'll be doing an instant analysis, an instant reaction to the playoff announcement. My official stance, Mason Woods, is that I don't care if Alabama gets in or out. If they're out, they did it to themselves. If they're in, they probably deserve it among these teams that we've been discussing. The only team that's going to send me into a rage if Alabama is left out over this team is South Carolina.
Agreed.
Because you beat South Carolina on the field. I don't care about, we win 6 in a row to finish the year. That really does not matter at all. If Alabama's left out in favor of Miami, left out in favor of SMU and Clemson, will it sting? Sure. But you have nobody to blame but yourself. And I think where you've left yourself, you should be still in that 11-12 spot. But losing the way you lost at Oklahoma has really taken things out of your own hands.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. If Miami ends up getting this 12 spot over Alabama, you're not going to really hear any arguments from me. They went 10-2 this season. It is what it is. Alabama went 9-3. You take the team with more wins. I can't really make any valid argument against that. Yes, but at the end of the day, I can't really argue against it. They do have more wins, so sure.
Okay, but if we're going to play that game, Mason, why not Army?
Hey, yeah. I did see this argument this morning on Twitter. I did see somebody pose this. I don't remember who it was.
If it's just about the wins and loss record,
yeah.
If that's all that we're considering, that's the be-all, end-all, Well, throw in Army over Miami. I mean,
Maybe throw
they
in
don't have
Army
any
over a
ranked
bunch of
wins.
teams, like-
Their Army's loss, at least, is on the road to
Good
rank
loss.
to Notre Dame. They
I mean, Army has a better resume than Miami does. If we're just going blind resume here.
that's why I think this discussion is dumb.
Yeah.
Oh, one fewer loss, Miami, you're in.
I mean, I agree, but I just think if that happens, I'm just going to, like, I can live a little bit more with dumb people doing dumb things than I can with South Carolina getting put in over Alabama,
Certainly.
who literally lost to them on the field.
If Army or if Miami are put in over Alabama, I'll think, well, that was silly, but I will at least be able to see the reasoning and rationale.
Mm-hmm. I can live with it. If it's South Carolina, I have no answers for why they did that.
Yeah. So it's going to be interesting tonight, Mason, where they put Alabama. It's the second to last rankings. Obviously, next Sunday is Selection Sunday. So these really are probably your most important rankings of the entire festivities. Alabama left the committee with a 28-14 win over the Auburn Tigers. Now, it's much better than losing like Texas A&M did, but just not. I didn't think it was a great final impression.
No. And speaking of Texas A&M, man, that was so embarrassing for them. I mean, like, you have all this build up, you have this amazing, beautiful, like, I mean, I'm sitting there like watching it. It was the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen. 110,000 people screaming their faces off, waiting as the team runs onto the field. Fireworks. They got fog machines. Probably a dude ripping an electric guitar somewhere. Like, and then you just go out and lay an egg. It was so bad.
Horrible.
Shame on you, Texas A&M. Shame on you, Mike Elko.
Even after not preparing for Auburn, that's what you put up.
Shame on you.
Only able to muster a pick six. You're lucky Quinn Ewers gave that to you. Let's get out of here for the day. We are actually headed over to Coleman Coliseum because I am going to hear from Nate Oates as the boys are back from the Players Serve Festival, and they are getting ready for another road trip. They're on the road at North Carolina tomorrow. So we will hear from Coach Nate Oates. You can find that on the Bama Central YouTube channel. You can find all kinds of information from that press conference on Bama Central, Alabama Crimson Tide on SI. Tomorrow is a huge day. Mason, why don't you say goodbye to us by telling everybody what in the world we're getting into tomorrow?
Woo-wee. The early signing period for football officially kicks off tomorrow, and boy, we are going to be extremely busy on not only Alabama on SI, but Missouri on SI, Miami on SI, and Boston College on SI. I think I was running the numbers yesterday, and I think it's going to be across those four sites anywhere from probably about 80 to 90 stories going live. So it's going to be a lot of profiles on a lot of these athletes that will be signing tomorrow. So be ready, be locked in, and let's see who Alabama lands.
It's going to be a lot of fun. We'll talk about it tomorrow right here on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central and BamaCentral.com.
Thanks for joining us on today's edition of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. Keep up with Joe on all his social media pages at Joe Gaither6. Subscribe, rate, and review the show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and be sure to read us daily at BamaCentral.com.